On a snowy night in a small tailor shop, a young black woman sat helplessly, counting her last few dollars, surrounded by unpaid bills. She was desperate, yet still had to go out to buy food for her little sister at home. Then, by chance, she saw a frail old woman trembling as she was being kicked out of a cafe for not having any money. Despite her empty pockets, she walked into the cafe and offered the old woman dinner. But that single act of kindness would change her life forever, because the old woman turned out to be the mother of a famous CEO. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The numbers wouldn't change, no matter how many times Elena Martinez counted. Her fingers moved across the crumpled bills spread on the kitchen table. 3, 20 seconds, 2 10, a 5, and a handful of 10 ones. She counted again. $847, the same as the last 16 times. It was 200 a.m. The apartment was freezing. Outside, snow fell thick and silent, coating Riverside, Minnesota in white. Inside, Elena's breath came out in small clouds. The heating had been broken for 2 weeks now, and she couldn't afford to fix it. She looked at the papers surrounding the money. A bright pink eviction notice. Final warning. Payment due $3,200. Deadline January 15th, 3 days away. Next to it, a red electricity bill marked overdue. And there, face down like she couldn't bear to look at. Pit again. Sophia's rejection letter from the state scholarship program. Elena's hands trembled as she picked up the letter one more time. We regret to inform you that Sophia Martinez has not been selected for the full academic scholarship. Her GPA of 3.78 falls 0.2 points below the required 3.88 threshold. 0.2. Her baby sister's future denied by 2. Elena pressed her palms against her eyes. Don't cry. Crying doesn't pay bills. Crying doesn't keep the lights on. But God, she was so tired. 8 hours earlier, the afternoon, sun had been bright through the windows of Abua's threads. Elena had opened the shop at 7 a.m. Like always, the small storefront sat on Main Street, wedged between a coffee shop and a pharmacy. The hand-painted sign above the door read, Abua's Threads in fading yellow letters. Below it, smaller alterations and repairs. Since 1987, since Abuela Rosa had opened it 38 years ago, since Elena had inherited it 2 years ago after Rosa died of a heart attack because they couldn't afford the surgery. The shop smelled like fabric and old wood. Sunlight caught the dust floating through the air. Elena sat at her grandmother's ancient Singer sewing machine, hemming a pair of pants for Mrs. Chen. Her hands moved automatically, the way Rosa had taught her when she was 13. Mija. She could still hear Rosa's voice, warm and steady. Cada unto Esperanza. Every stitch is an act of hope. Elena wasn't sure she had much of that left. The bell above the strained door chimed. Mrs. Chen shuffled in, her coat dusted with snow. Elena, honey, is it ready? Elena smiled and held up the finished work. Good as new, Mrs. Chen. The elderly woman examined the repair, nodding. Beautiful as always. How much? All do I owe you? $5. Mrs. Chen pulled out a worn $5 bill and pressed it into Elena's hand. You're too cheap, you know that. You should charge more. I charge what's fair. Fair doesn't keep the lights on. Mrs. Chen squeezed her hand. Take care of yourself, honey. After she left, Elena added the $5 to the small cash box. Under the counter, $14 so far today. The rent was due in 3 days. The bell chimed. Again, around 3:00 p.m., Mr. Thompson, a construction worker, came in with a torn work jacket. Can you fix this, Elena? I know it's pretty bad. She examined the rip along the shoulder seam. I can fix it. How much? She calculated quickly. The repair would take about an hour. $12. Deal. When can I pick it up? Tomorrow afternoon. After he left, Elena locked the door and flipped the sign to down. Closed. She'd made $17 today. Yesterday, 23. The day before 9. She couldn't remember the last time she'd made more. than $30 in a single day. The rent for the shop was $1,800 a month, plus utilities, plus supplies. She was drowning, and no matter how hard she swam, the water kept rising. At 5 p.m., as Elena was organizing her workspace, someone knocked hard on the tent shop door. She looked up and her stomach dropped. Mr. Davidson stood outside his expensive coat, buttoned up against the cold. His expression was carved from ice. Elena unlocked the door. "Mr. Davidson, I wasn't expecting. May I come in?" She stepped aside. He walked in, surveying the shop with cold, assessing eyes. "Miss Martinez," his voice was flat. "We need to talk. I know, I'm sorry, I'm behind on rent, but if you could just give me 4 months." He cut her off. "You're 4 months behind. That's $7,200 plus this month, which is also due." I know. Elena's voice cracked. "But business has been slow, and I just need a little more time." Time. Davidson turned to face her fully. "I've given you time. 4 months of time. I have bills to pay too, Miss Martinez. I have property, taxes. I have maintenance costs. Your grandmother understood that business is business. My grandmother paid on time because she had customers." Elena's hands clenched into fists. "Do you know how many people came in today, too? 2 customers. $17. That's not my problem. I'm asking for 2 more weeks. Just 2 weeks. I'll figure something out. You'll what?" Davidson's face didn't change. "Work twice as hard. You've been working twice as hard for months. It's not working." Elena felt something break inside her chest. "Please, Mr. Davidson, I have nowhere else to go. This shop is all I have left of my grandmother. It's her legacy. I can't. Legacy doesn't pay my bills." He pulled an envelope from his coat pocket and set it on the counter. "Official eviction notice. You have until January 15th to pay $3,200, the bare minimum, to avoid immediate legal action. If you can't pay, you need to vacate the premises. 3 days. You're giving me 3 days. I'm being generous. I could have started legal proceedings weeks ago." He headed for the door, then paused. "I'm not a bad person, Miss Martinez. I'm a businessman. There's a difference." After he left, Elena stood frozen in the empty shop. Outside, people walked past the window. A mother with 2 children. A couple. Holding hands. A businessman on his flat phone. None of them looked in. None of them stopped. They never did. Elena closed the shop at 6 p.m. and walked home through the snow. The cold bit through her thin jacket, but she barely felt it. Her mind was spinning, calculating, desperately searching for a solution that didn't exist. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old building 6 blocks away. Elena climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. Inside, Sophia sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by textbooks and papers. At 15, she looked so much like their mother. The same dark eyes, the same determined set to her jaw. "Hey, Chica." Elena forced a smile. "How was school?" Sophia didn't look up. "Fine." Something in her sister's voice made Elena pause. "Just fine." "Yeah, fine." Elena set down her bag and walked over. That's when she saw it, the envelope on the table, the return address from the Minnesota State Scholarship Board. Our heart stopped. "Sophia, I didn't get it." Sophia's voice was flat, too flat. "They sent the letter today." Elena picked up the envelope with shaking hands and read the letter. Point 2. Her brilliant, hardworking baby sister had missed the scholarship by point 2. "I'm sorry." Sophia finally looked up, and her eyes were red. "I know we needed this. I know. You were counting on it." "No." Elena knelt beside her sister's chair. "No, don't you dare apologize. You did everything right. You worked so hard, but it wasn't enough." Sophia's voice broke. "My GPA wasn't high enough. I'm not good enough. And now I can't go to college. And you're going to have to keep working yourself to death for me." And the tears came, then hot and fast. "Maybe I shouldn't go to college at all. Maybe I should just get a job and help you with the shop." "Stop." Elena grabbed her sister's shoulders. "Stop right now. You are going to college, Sophia. Do you hear me? You're brilliant. You're going to do amazing things. It's just a setback, but we can't afford. I'll figure it out. How? Sophia wiped her eyes roughly. Chica, I see the bills. I know we're broke. I know, mister. Davidson wants to kick us out. How are you going to figure this out? Elena opened her mouth to answer, but nothing came. How? When she had $847 and needed thousands? How? When the shop was dying and she couldn't save it? How? And every day felt like drowning. I don't know, she finally whispered. But I will. I promise you I will. Sophia leaned her head against Elena's shoulder. I'm scared, Hermana. Me too, baby. Me too. Now, at 2 a.m., Elena sat alone at the kitchen table and counted her money for the 17th time. Still, $847. Outside, the snow kept falling. The temperature had dropped to negative 18 degrees. The apartment was so cold she could see her breath. She thought about Rosa, about the lessons her grandmother had taught her, about hope stitched into fabric, about making beautiful things from broken pieces. But what do you do when you're the broken piece, when there's not enough thread in the world to hold you together? Elena looked at the eviction notice. 3 days. She looked at Sophia's rejection letter. Point 2. She looked at the money. $847. Then she put her head down on the table and finally let herself cry. By 6 that evening, Elena had stopped crying. Tears didn't fix anything. She needed food. She pulled on her thin jacket, the only winter coat she owned, and walked to Save Mart 3 blocks away. The wind cut through the fabric like knives. The weather forecast on her phone flashed. Red, blizzard warning, level 3, temperatures dropping to minus 20 degrees F. Avoid unnecessary travel. Necessary. Everything Elena did was necessary. Save Mart was nearly empty. Fluorescent. Lights buzzing overhead. Elena headed straight for the discount section at the Bright Wine. Back, the shelf where they put food, about to expire. She picked through the items carefully. A package of ramen and noodles marked down to $1.50. A dented can of beans for $2. A loaf of bread from yesterday reduced by 50%. $1.75. Her fingers hovered over a small package of chicken breasts. $8.99. Not on sale. She put it back. At the register, the teenage cashier barely looked at her as she scanned the items. $850. Elena handed over a $10 bill taken from her pile of $847. She had $838.50. Now, the cashier gave her change, $1.50. Elena slipped the coins into her pocket and grabbed the thin plastic bag. 3 days of food for her and Sophia, if they were careful. Outside, the snow was falling harder now, big wet flakes that stuck to everything. Elena pulled up her hood and started walking the grocery bag, clutched against her chest. She walked past the pharmacy, dark and closed for the evening, past the insurance office, where Mrs. Chen worked during the day. Past Elena stopped through the frosted window of Frostbite Cafe. She saw something that made her heart clench. An old woman sat alone at the corner table. White hair, thin shoulders hunched forward. In front of her sat a single glass of water. The only thing on the table, the woman's coat, was threadbare, holes visible even from outside. Her hands resting on the table trembled continuously. Not from cold, though it was cold. From something deeper, hunger, maybe, or exhaustion so complete it lived in the bones. Elena knew that kind of tired. She felt it every day. But this was worse, so much worse. A man in a Frostbite Cafe apron stood beside the woman's table. Even through a window, Elena could see the irritation on his face. His arms were crossed. His mouth was moving. Elena stepped closer to the window. Underscore, 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 underscore. Inside the cafe, Tyler Morrison was done being patient. He'd been working at Frostbite for 2 months, and this old lady had been coming in almost every night for the past 3 weeks. She'd order a free water, sit for hours, and never buy anything else. Tonight, the cafe was busy. The blizzard had people wanting hot drinks before heading home, and this woman was taking up a 4-person table by the window. Prime real estate. "Ma'am," Tyler said louder this time, "I need you to either order something or leave. We have paying customers waiting." The old woman looked up at him. Her eyes were pale blue, watery with age. "Please, son, just 10 more minutes. The snow is so heavy, and I don't have anywhere warm to go." "That's not my problem." Tyler felt a flash of guilt, but pushed it down. He was just doing his job. "This is a coffee shop, not a warming shelter. If you want to stay, you need to buy something. I don't have any money." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Then, I'm sorry, but you can't be here." The woman's hands shook harder as she gripped the edge of the table. She started to stand, moving, like every joint hurt. Tyler looked away. It was easier not to watch. From behind the counter, Sharon, the manager, called out, "Tyler's right, Mrs. Williams. I've let you stay here before, but we can't keep doing this. We're a business." A man at the next table muttered to his companion, just loud enough to be heard, "Homeless problem in this town is getting out of hand." His companion nodded. Someone should do something, but neither of them did anything. They just looked away. The old woman, Mrs. Williams, pushed herself to her feet. Her movements were so slow, so painful. She picked up a worn plastic bag from the floor, everything she owned, probably. She shuffled toward the timid door. Underscore, 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 underscore. Ina stood outside, watching through the market window. She saw the young barista cross his arms, saw the manager turn away, saw the other customers study their phones, their laptops, their drinks, anything to avoid looking at the old woman, struggling to stand. Something hot and sharp twisted in Elena's chest. She'd seen this before 2 years ago. The hospital, Rosa, clutching her chest, face gray with pain. The receptionist's cold voice. "Do you have insurance?" "No." "Then, I'm sorry, but they'd made Rosa wait 4 hours in the ER waiting room. By the time they took her back, it was too late." "Business is business," the hospital administrator had said later, when Elena was screaming at him through her tears. "We have policies. Policies. Rules. Business. People died because of policies." Elena looked down at her grocery bag. $8.50. 3 days of food. She looked at the old woman now at the cafe door, her hand shaking so badly she could barely turn the handle. If that woman went out into this blizzard with nowhere to go, she wouldn't survive the night. Elena knew it with absolute certainty. "If you turn it away now," a voice whispered in her head. Rose's voice. "You're no different than the people who let me die." But Elena had $838.50 left. That was all. She needed every penny. She looked at the grocery bag. Again, 3 days of food. She looked at the woman. "One night of life." "Damn it," Elena whispered. She pulled open the cafe door and stepped inside. Warm air hit her face. The smell of coffee and cinnamon. The moment Elena walked through the cafe door, conversation stopped. Every head turned. She felt their eyes on her, assessing, judging. Her coat was thin and worn, the zipper broken. Her shoes had a hole near the left toe that she'd tried to patch with duct tape. Her hands were rough, marked with tiny scars from needle pricks, the hands of someone who worked with them every day. She didn't belong in a place like Frostbite Cafe, with its glossy wooden tables and soft lighting and customers in North Face jackets who paid $5 for a latte without thinking twice. But she kept walking. The warm air inside felt like a slap after the brutal cold. Elena's fingers were numb. Her face burned as feeling returned to it. Dorothy stood frozen by the door, one hand still on the handle, looking at Elena with confused, watery eyes. Elena walked straight to the gang counter. Her shoes squeaked on the wet floor, leaving tracks of melting snow. Tyler was there, wiping down the espresso machine. He looked up as she approached, and Elena saw recognition flicker across his face. The woman from outside, the one who'd been watching. "Hi," Elena said. Her voice came out quieter than she wanted. She cleared her throat and then tried again. "I'd like 2 large coffees, please, and 2 of those turkey sandwiches." She pointed at the refrigerated case where pre-made sandwiches sat on white plates. Tyler glanced at the sandwiches, then back at Elena. His eyes traveled down to her patched shoes, her worn coat. Okay. Those are $9 each, and the coffees are $250 each. That's $18.50 total. Oh no." Elena's hands were shaking. She shoved them into her coat pockets, trying to steal them. "For here or to go?" "For here." Tyler rang up the order. The register beeped. $1,850. Elena pulled out her money, the $10 bill she'd gotten as change from SaveMart, the $150 in coins. Then she dug deeper into her pocket and found the rest of 5 3/1 2 quarters she'd almost forgotten about. She counted it out on the counter, her fingers trembling so badly the coins clinked against each other. Her mind was screaming at her. "This is insane. This is $18.50 you don't have. That's 2.5 days of food. That's money you need." But another voice, Rose's voice, whispered back, "My dear, what good is surviving if you lose your soul doing for it?" Elena placed the last quarter on the counter. Tyler counted the money, moving it around with one finger. 1,850. Exactly. He looked at Elena for a long moment, and something shifted in his expression. The irritation faded. In its place came something that looked like shame. "Keep the change," Elena said, even though there was no change. Tyler's face went red. I'll bring these to your table." Elena turned away from the counter and walked to where Dorothy stood. The old woman hadn't moved. She was still standing there, one hand on a door like she'd forgotten how to walk. "Ma'am," Elena said softly, "would you mind if I sat with you? I don't like drinking coffee alone." Dorothy's eyes were wide, confused. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. "You don't have to do this," Dorothy finally whispered. Her voice was horror, like she wasn't used to using it. "You don't. I'm nobody. You're not nobody." Elena reached out slowly and gently touched Dorothy's elbow. The fabric of her coat was so thin, Elena could feel bone underneath. "And my grandmother used to say that coffee tastes better when it's shared with a friend. So, would you share a coffee with me?" Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. They spilled over, running down the deep lines of her face. "I don't understand," she said. "Why would you?" "Because it's cold outside," Elena smiled, though her own eyes were burning. "And because I saw you, and I thought maybe you could use a friend. And honestly, so could I." Dorothy's hand finally released the door handle. She let Elena guide her back to the corner table. Around them, the cafe slowly came back to life. Conversations resumed, quieter now. Keyboards clicked, but Elena could still feel people watching from the corners of their eyes. They sat down across from each other. Dorothy moved like every joint hurt, lowering herself into the chair with a small gasp. Up close, Elena could see just how thin she was. Her cheekbones jutted out sharply. Her neck was like a bird's, fragile and thin. The coat she wore, dirty gray, torn at the shoulder, hung on her like it was 3 sizes too big. How long had she been living like this? "I'm Elena," she said. "Elena Martinez." Dorothy wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Her fingers were gnarled with arthritis, the knuckles swollen. "Dorothy Williams. But most people just call me." She trailed off, not finishing the low sentence. "Most people don't call me anything," Elena filled in silently. "Most people don't see me at all." "Dorothy's a beautiful name," Elena said. Dorothy looked at her like she couldn't remember the last time someone had said something kind to her. Tyler appeared beside their table carrying a tray. He sat down too. "Large coffees and 2 sandwiches without meeting Elena's eyes. His hands shook slightly as he arranged the items on the table. Is there, he cleared his throat. Is there anything else you need? Elena looked at him. Really? Looked at him. He was young, early 22s, probably a college kid working a part-time job. His name tag, said Tyler with a little coffee cup drawn underneath. He wasn't evil. He was just tired, overworked, following rules because that's what you did. No, Elena said. Thank you. Tyler nodded and walked away quickly, his shoulders hunched. Dorothy stared at the food in front of her. She reached out one trembling hand and touched the sandwich, like she was afraid it might disappear. Her voice cracked. Con guy, do you? Oh no, 3 days? I haven't eaten anything in 3 days except some bread I found in a dumpster behind the grocery store. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. 3 days, the same amount of time. Her $8 groceries were supposed to feed her and Sophia, and Dorothy had been eating from dumpsters. Then, please, Elena said, pushing the sandwich closer to Dorothy. Please, eat. Dorothy picked up the sandwich with both hands. They shook so badly she almost dropped it. She brought it to her mouth and took a bite, and then she started to cry. Not quiet tears. This time, deep, wrenching sobs that made her whole body shake. She chewed and swallowed and cried, and Elena felt her own throat close up. I'm sorry, Dorothy gasped between bites. I'm so sorry. I can't remember the last time someone was kind to me. I can't remember the last time someone saw me and didn't look away. Elena reached across the table and took Dorothy's free hand. It felt like holding a bird, small, bones, papery skin, the faintest flutter of a pulse. Why? Dorothy whispered, looking at Elena with raw, desperate eyes. Why would you do this for a stranger, for someone like me? Elena, I thought about Rosa, about sitting beside her hospital bed holding her hand while she died, about the receptionist who'd made them wait, about Mr. Davidson's cold eyes, about all the people who walked past suffering every day because it was easier not to see. You're not a stranger, Elena said quietly. You're a person who needed help, and maybe her voice caught. Maybe I needed to help someone. Maybe I needed to remember that I'm still human even when the world tries to make me forget. Dorothy squeezed her hand. What's your name? Again? Elena. Elena Martinez. Elena. Dorothy said it slowly like she was memorizing it. You're an angel, Elena. A real angel. I'm not an angel. Elena shook her head. I'm just someone who had $20 and saw someone who needed it more. $20 you probably needed it yourself. Dorothy's voice was sharp now, clearer. She looked at Elena's worn coat, her rough hands. You're not rich, are you? Elena laughed, but it came out. Bitter. No, I'm definitely not rich. Then why? My grandmother raised me. Elena wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, feeling the warmth seep into her frozen fingers. She taught me that every stitch is an act of hope, that making something beautiful from broken pieces is the most important thing we can do. She looked at Dorothy. You're not broken. You've just been torn. And maybe this is me trying to make something beautiful. Dorothy's eyes spilled over again, but she was smiling now, actually smiling. They sat there in silence for a moment, not the uncomfortable silence of strangers, but the easy quiet of two people who understood each other. Dorothy ate her sandwich slowly, savoring every bite. Elena sipped her coffee, black, bitter, perfect, and felt warmth spread through her chest, not from the coffee, from something else. Around them, the cafe hummed with life, but in their corner, in their small circle of warmth, the world felt a little less cold. Can I ask you something? Dorothy said after she'd finished half the sandwich. Of course. Do you believe in angels? Real ones? I mean, Elena thought about it. I don't know. Maybe. Why? Dorothy smiled. A real smile this time reaching her eyes. Because if they exist, I think they look like you, like ordinary people, doing extraordinary things when nobody's watching. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. I think if angels exist, they're just people who refuse to look away. Then the world needs more angels. Yeah, Elena whispered. It really does. Dorothy reached across the table and covered Elena's hand with both of hers. Thank you. You saved my life tonight. You know that, don't you? Elena did know. Without food, without warmth, Dorothy wouldn't have survived the blizzard. She would have been another statistic, another homeless person found frozen in the morning. But not tonight. Tonight, Dorothy would live, and Elena, despite having just spent money she desperately needed, felt something she hadn't felt in months. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she'd done something that mattered. Outside, the snow continued to fall, burying the street in white. The temperature kept dropping. The blizzard raged on. But inside Frostbite Cafe, two women sat together over coffee and sandwiches, no longer quite so alone. And sometimes Elena thought that was enough. Sometimes that was everything. They sat together for 30 minutes before Dorothy began to talk. Really talk. At first, it was small things. The weather, how cold it was, how the sandwich was. The best thing she'd eaten in months. But then, slowly, like ice melting, the real story came out. I wasn't always like this, Dorothy said, her fingers wrapped around her coffee cup. I had a life once. A real life. Elena leaned forward. Tell me about it. Dorothy's eyes went distant, looking at something far away. I was a teacher, 3rd grade, at Riverside Elementary. I taught there for 35 years. A small smile touched her lips. I love those kids. Every single one of them, even the difficult ones, especially the difficult ones. That's a long time, Elena said softly. It was in my whole life. Dorothy's voice was warm now, remembering I'd get there early. Every morning, set up the classroom. I'd put encouraging notes on their desks. You're special. You're going to do great things. Little things like that. She looked at Elena. You'd be surprised how much a child needs to hear that they matter. I don't think I'd be surprised. And at all, Elena said. Dorothy nodded. Slowly. No, I suppose you wouldn't. She took a sip of coffee. My husband, George, he was an engineer. Built bridges, highways, strong, steady man. We got married when I was 22. Had our son, Marcus, 2 years later. Her face lit up when she said his name. Marcus. He was such a good boy. Dorothy continued, her voice catching. Smart, kind, always building things with his father. They'd spend weekends in the garage working on projects together. George taught him everything, how to use tools, how to read blueprints. But I taught him the important stuff. She smiled through tears. How to be gentle, how to see people who are hurting, how to help. He sounds wonderful, Elena said. He is. Dorothy's hands tightened around her cup. George died 8 years ago. Cancer. It was fast. 6 months from diagnosis to the end. Marcus flew home from California, where he'd moved for work. He stayed with us those last 2 months, held his father's hand when he passed. Elena felt her throat tighten. I'm so sorry. After George died, Marcus wanted me to move to California, live with him, but I couldn't leave Riverside. This was my home, our home. I had memories here, 46 years of memories. Dorothy looked out the window at the falling snow. I told him I'd be fine. I had my teacher's pension, my house. I'd visit him soon. But you never did, Elena said quietly. Dorothy shook her head. I was going to. 6 years ago, I finally decided to go visit him. I packed a bag, got in my car, drove to California. It's a long drive, 22 hours. I made it almost all the way. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Almost. Elena waited. Outside, the wind howled, throwing snow against the bright windows. There was ice on the road, Dorothy continued. Black ice. I didn't see it. My car, it just spun out. I remember the feeling of losing control. I remember the guardrail coming at me. And then she closed her eyes. Nothing. Just darkness. What happened? I was in a coma for 4 months. Dorothy's hands trembled. When I woke up, I didn't know where I was. Didn't know my own name for the first week. The doctor said I had a traumatic brain injury. My memory was scattered. Pieces missing. She opened her eyes, and they were full of pain. So deep it made Elena's chest ache. The hospital tried to contact Marcus, but I'd only had his old address in my wallet. He'd moved, new job, new house. The letters they sent came back, undeliverable. They couldn't reach him. Dorothy's voice broke, and I couldn't remember his new address. Couldn't remember his phone number. His injury had taken those memories. Oh, God, Elena whispered. The hospital bills. Dorothy laughed bitterly. Do you know how much? 4 months in intensive care. Costs? I didn't have insurance that covered it all. They sold my house to pay the debt. Everything. My home, my furniture. 46 years of memories gone. Sold to strangers. Elena thought about Rosa. About hospital bills that multiplied like cancer. About a system that turned tragedy into debt. When I was finally discharged, I had nothing. Dorothy said, no home, no money, no way to find Marcus. I went to the police, but without his new address or phone number, they couldn't help. I tried directory assistance, but there were hundreds of Marcus Williams in California. Hundreds. You couldn't use this. The internet. Dorothy shook her head. I didn't have a computer, didn't have a phone. The library has computers, but I'm 74 years old, dear. I never learned. And by the time I tried, I couldn't think straight. The head injury left me, confused, sometimes forgetful. She set down her coffee cup and stared at her hands. So, I lived on the streets 6 years now. I sleep at the shelter when there's room, but it fills up fast in winter. Most nights I sleep on benches, in the bus station, in doorways, and anywhere I can find that's out of the wind. Her voice was flat now, reciting facts. I collect cans for money. Sometimes people give me change. The church serves meals on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I get by. That's not living, Elena said. That's surviving. Is there a difference? Dorothy looked at her with hollow eyes. I'm invisible now. People look through me, not at me. They see homeless woman, and they turn away, like I'm not human anymore, like I don't matter. Elena thought about the people in the cafe tonight, the ones who'd looked away, the ones who'd muttered about the homeless problem 2 years ago. Dorothy said quietly, I tried to end it. I walked into the river in Stark. January. The water was so cold it burned. I thought it would be fast, peaceful. Elena's hand flew to her mouth, but a jogger saw me, pulled me out, called 911. They took me to the hospital, asked me questions, put me in a psych ward for 72 hours, then released me back onto the streets. Dorothy's laugh was hollow. They saved my life just to throw me back into the same hell. I was trying to escape. Dorothy, I'm not telling you this for pity. Dorothy said quickly, I'm telling you because you asked, because you're the first person in 6 years who's looked at me like I'm human, like I'm worth listening to. Elena reached across the table and took both of Dorothy's hands. You are human. You are worth everything. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears again. You say that, but Marcus doesn't even... I know I'm alive. He thinks I died in that accident. He probably mourned me and moved on. Got married. Maybe had children. Built a life without me. Or maybe he's been looking for you, Elena said. Maybe he never stopped. Why would he? Dorothy pulled her hands away and wiped her eyes. 6 years of silence. He probably thinks I abandoned him or that I really did die and nobody told him. Elena opened her mouth to respond, but Dorothy cut her off. Tell me about you, Dorothy said. I've talked enough. I want to know about the angel who bought me dinner. Elena wasn't sure she wanted to share. Her problems felt small compared to Dorothy's, but something in the old woman's eyes, genuine interest, real caring, made her open up. My parents died when I was 19, Elena said. Factory accident. They both worked at the same plant, same shift. There was an explosion. They didn't. It was fast. Dorothy squeezed her hand. My sister, Sophia, was only 7. We had no other family except my grandmother, Rosa. She was already in her 72nd, but she took us in without hesitation. Elena smiled. Remembering, she taught me to sew, said every stitch was an act of hope, that we could take broken things and make them whole again. She sounds like a wise woman. She was. Elena's throat tightened. 2 years ago, she had a heart attack. We rushed her to the hospital. But we didn't have good insurance. They made us wait 4 hours in the ER. By the time they took her back, it was too late. Oh, honey. The hospital bills came. Anyway, thousands of dollars for a woman who died in their waiting room. Elena's voice was bitter. I sold everything I could to pay them, but I kept the shop, her shop, Abua's threads. It was her legacy. I thought I could keep it alive, keep her dream alive, but it's not working, Dorothy said gently. No, Elena shook her head. Business is dying. I make maybe $20, $30 a day. The rent is $1,800 a month. I'm 4 months behind. My landlord gave me 3 days to come up with $3,200, or he's evicting me. 3 days. And Sophia Elena's voice cracked. She's so smart, so brilliant. She got rejected from a scholarship today, missed it by 0.2 points. She wants to quit school, get a job, help me, but I can't let her do that. I can't let her give up her future because I'm failing. Dorothy was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're not failing, child. You're drowning. There's a difference. Feels the same. I know. Dorothy reached across the table again. But you know what I see when I look at you. I see someone who spent her last $20 feeding a stranger. I see someone who still has hope even when everything's falling apart. That's not failure. That's courage. Elena laughed, but it came out as a sob. I don't feel courageous. I feel terrified. Courage isn't not being scared, Dorothy said. It's being scared and doing the right thing anyway. Like tonight, you could have walked past me. Most people did, but you didn't. They sat in silence for a moment. Two women from different generations, different lives connected by shared pain and unexpected kindness. You know what's funny? Dorothy said softly. I was ready to die tonight. I was going to walk out into that blizzard and just let go. Let the cold take me, but then you showed up. She smiled through her tears. Maybe the universe isn't completely cruel after all. Don't say that, Elena said fiercely. Don't talk about dying. We'll figure something out. Elena, Dorothy's voice was gentle but firm. I've given up on finding Marcus. After 6 years, it's time to accept that part of my life is over. But if you ever meet a man named Marcus Williams, maybe 45 years old, works in California somewhere, she took a shaky breath. Tell him his mother never stopped loving him. Tell him I'm sorry I left. Tell him yourself. Elena interrupted. You're not dying tonight. You hear me? You're not giving up. Dorothy smiled sadly. You can't save everyone, dear. Maybe not, Elena said, but I can try to save you. Outside, the blizzard raged on, burying the world in white. Inside, two women held hands across the table and refused to let go. Elena got home at 10. The Brock apartment was dark, except for the small lamp Sophia had left on in the living room. She checked her sister's bedroom. Sophia was asleep, curled under 2 blankets, her textbooks still spread across the bed. Elena gently moved them to the floor and pulled the covers up around Sophia's shoulders. Love you, chica, she whispered. Sophia didn't stir. Elena went to her own room and lay down on the bed, still wearing her coat. The apartment was freezing. Outside, she could hear the wind howling, throwing snow against the windows. She closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. All she could see was Dorothy's face, those pale blue eyes, those trembling hands, that voice saying, I was ready to die. Tonight. Where was she now? The shelter, a doorway, the bus station. Was she warm? Was she safe? Elena sat up. She couldn't just lie here wondering. She grabbed her laptop from the desk, an old Dell she'd bought secondhand 3 years ago. The screen was cracked in one corner and the battery barely held a charge anymore. She opened it and the screen flickered to life. Battery 20%. Elena pulled up Google and typed Marcus Williams. The results loaded. 2.4 million hits. Her heart sank. There were pages and pages of Marcus Williams. Actors, athletes, businessmen, doctors, teachers. How was she supposed to find the right one? She tried again. Marcus Williams, engineer, California. Still, thousands of results. Engineers named Marcus Williams in Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, Sacramento. None of them looked right. Battery 15%. Elena rubbed her eyes. This was impossible. Dorothy had said. Marcus moved, changed addresses, started over. He could be anywhere. He could have changed careers. He could have. Wait. Elena sat up, straighter. Dorothy had said something else. Something about Marcus as a child. What was it? She closed her eyes, trying to remember. They had been talking about Marcus, about what kind of boy he was. He was always building things with his father. They'd spend weekends in the garage working on projects together. No, that wasn't it. There was something else. Something about Bud. I taught him the important stuff. How to be gentle. How to see people who are hurting. How to help. That was it. Dorothy had said something about Marcus wanting to blows. Help people. Something specific. Elena's eyes flew open. She scrolled back through her memory of the conversation. Marcus always said he wanted to build houses for people who didn't have them. He said, everyone deserves a home. That was it. Elena's fingers flew across the keyboard. Marcus Williams, real estate, affordable housing, California. She hit enter. Battery 10%. The page loaded, and there at the very top of the slant, results was a website. Williams Development Group. Elena clicked on it. The website was professional clean. The header image showed a modern apartment building with the tagline underneath, building homes, rebuilding lives, affordable housing for all. Elena's breath caught in her throat. She clicked on About Us, a page loaded with information about the company's mission, their projects, their commitment to creating housing for low-income families. And there at the bottom, meet our founder. Elena clicked. A photo appeared. A man in his mid-40s standing in front of a construction site. He wore a hard hat and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He was smiling at the camera, a warm, genuine smile, and his eyes were pale blue, just like Dorothy's. Elena's hand started shaking, so badly she almost dropped the laptop. She read the bio beneath the photo. Marcus Williams founded Williams Development Group in 2015 with a simple mission. Ensure that every family has access to safe, affordable housing. Born in 1980 and raised in Riverside, Minnesota, Marcus learned the value of hard work from his father, George Williams, a civil engineer, and the importance of compassion from his prophet, mother, Dorothy Williams, a beloved elementary school teacher. Elena's vision blurred with tears. This was him. This was Dorothy's son. She kept reading, her heart pounding. After studying engineering at UC Berkeley, Marcus spent 10 years in corporate real estate before founding WDG. He credits his parents with inspiring his life's work. My father taught me how to build. Marcus says, my mother taught me why to build. She always said that everyone matters, especially those the world tries to ignore. Elena scrolled down to the bottom of the bio. The last line made her stop breathing. In loving memory of my mother, Dorothy Williams, 1950, 1 to 2019, and my father, George Williams, 1948 to 2017. Everything I do is for them. 2019. Marcus thought his mother died in 2019, the year of the accident. But Dorothy was alive. She was alive and sleeping in a doorway somewhere while her son mourned her. Battery 5%. Elena quickly clicked on the news section of the website. Several articles popped up, interviews with Marcus, stories about his projects, features in real estate magazines. The most recent article was dated 3 months ago. Elena clicked on it. It was an interview with a California business journal. The headline read, Building a Legacy. Marcus Williams on affordable housing and personal loss. Elena scanned the article frantically looking for any dies. Mention of Dorothy. There, halfway down the page, Williams admits that his drive comes from a place of deep personal loss. I lost my mother in 2019, he says, his voice thick with emotion. She was on her way to visit me when she had a car accident. I was on a business trip in Seattle. By the time I got the news and flew back, it was too late. I never got to say goodbye. Elena's tears fell onto the keyboard. The biggest regret of my life is that I wasn't there for her at the end. Williams continues, I was building my career, chasing success, and I let months go by without visiting her. I told myself I'd go next month, next quarter when things slowed down. But things never slow down, do they? And then she was gone. Elena kept reading, her chest tight. In his mother's memory, Williams established the Dorothy's Light Fund, a non-profit that provides support services for homeless individuals. My mother dedicated her life to helping others, he explains. She believed that everyone deserves to be seen to be valued. The fund is my way of continuing her work of making sure her light keeps shining. Elena sat back, the laptop screen blurring in front of her. Marcus hadn't forgotten his mother. He was honoring her every single day. He'd built a charity in her name. He was helping homeless people like Dorothy, because of what she'd taught him, and he had no idea she was still alive. Battery 2%. Elena wiped her eyes and looked at the photo of Marcus one more time. He had Dorothy's eyes, Dorothy's smile, and he was doing exactly what she'd raised him to do, helping people, seeing the invisible, making the world a little bit kinder. He still loves you, Elena whispered to the photo. He never stopped loving you. The laptop screen flickered. Battery 1%. Elena quickly memorized the contact information for Williams. Development group, a phone number, an email address, an office address in Door, Sacramento, California. The screen went black. The laptop was dead, but Elena wasn't. She felt more awake, more alive than she had in months. Dorothy was wrong. She hadn't lost Marcus. He was still there, still her son, still carrying her lessons in his heart, and Elena was going to bring them back together. She didn't know how yet. She didn't have a plan. She had $820, 3 days, until eviction, and a dead laptop. But she had something else now, too. She had hope. Every stitch is an act of hope. Rose's voice echoed in her mind. Elena stood up and looked out the window. Blizzard was still raging, but somewhere in the darkness, dawn was coming, and with it maybe a miracle. Elena barely slept. By 6 a.m., she was dressed and out the door, leaving a note for Sophia. Had to run an errand. Be back soon. Love. You. The blizzard had stopped, but it had left behind 2 feet of fresh snow. The streets were silent, buried in white. Elena's breath came out in clouds as she trudged through the drifts. She had to find Dorothy. The homeless shelter was her first stop. A tired-looking woman at the front desk shook her head. Dorothy Williams. Sorry, hun, she wasn't here last night. We were full by 7. Elena's stomach dropped. Do you know where she might have gone? Bus station, maybe? Or the old bank building on 5th? Some folks sleep in the doorway there when it's really cold. Elena tried the bus station next. She walked through the rective Batter was nothing day waiting area, scanning faces, elderly, men sleeping on benches, a young woman with 2 small children, but no Dorothy. By 8:30, Elena's fingers were numb. Inside her thin gloves, she'd checked the park empty, the church locked, every doorway on Main Street. Where was she? Then Elena remembered the old bank building on 5th, the one that had been closed for 3 years, windows boarded up. She ran. The doorway was recessed, offering some shelter from the wind, and there, huddled in the corner, was a shape covered in dirty blankets. Dorothy. Elena's voice cracked. The shape stirred. A face emerged from the blankets, pale, drawn, but alive. Elena. Dorothy's voice was weak. You came back. Elena dropped to her knees beside the old woman. Of course, I came back. Dorothy, I need to tell you something. I found him. I found Marcus. Dorothy blinked slowly, like she was having trouble processing the words. What? Your son? Marcus Williams. I found him online last night. Elena pulled out her phone. She'd plugged it in before leaving. Made sure it was fully charged. She pulled up the photo she'd screenshot before her. Laptop died. Is this him? She held the screen in front of Dorothy's face. Dorothy stared at the photo. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then tears started streaming down her weathered cheeks. Marcus, she whispered. That's my boy. That's my Marcus. Her trembling fingers reached toward the screen, but didn't touch it, like she was afraid the image would disappear. He looks so much like his father now. He's a CEO, Elena said quickly. He runs a real estate company that builds affordable housing. He's successful, Dorothy. He's doing exactly what you taught him to do, helping people. Dorothy was shaking her head. No, this can't be real. Marcus thinks I'm dead. It's been 6 years. He's moved on. He probably has a family now, a wife, children. He doesn't need his mother showing up like this. She looked down at herself. The filthy blankets, the torn coat, her dirty hands. Dorothy, look at me, Elena. Dorothy's voice rose. I'm homeless. I smell. I look like a ghost. He's a CEO. He has a good life. If I show up now, I'll just embarrass him. Ruin everything he's built. That's not true, Elena said fiercely. I read about him, Dorothy. He created a charity in your name, the Dorothy's Light Fund. It helps homeless people, don't you see? He's honoring you. He never stopped loving. Dorothy covered her face with her hands. 6 years, Elena. I left him alone for 6 years. He must think I abandoned him, or that I didn't love him enough to find a way back. How can he ever forgive that? Elena grabbed Dorothy's shoulders. You didn't abandon him. You were hurt. You were lost. None of this was your fault. But he doesn't know that. Then we'll tell him. Elena was almost shouting now. We'll call him. We'll explain. Dorothy, your son thinks you're sappin'. Dead. He's been mourning you, don't you? I think he deserves to know the truth. Dorothy looked at Elena with eyes full of terror and desperate hope. You want to call him now? Yes, right now. I can't. Dorothy shrank back against the wall. What if he doesn't want to talk to me? What if he's angry? What if? He's been waiting 6 years for this moment? Elena knelt down so they were eye level. Dorothy, listen to me. The worst thing that can happen is he says no. And even then, you'll know you tried. You'll know you didn't give up. Isn't that better than dying without ever knowing? Dorothy stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Okay, she whispered. Okay, call him. Are you sure? No, Dorothy laughed, but it came out more like a sob. But do it anyway, before I lose my nerve. Elena's hands shook as she pulled up the phone. Number for Williams Development Group. It was 9 a.m. in Minnesota, 7 a.m. in California. Would anyone even be there yet? She pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Please, Elena whispered. Please pick up. On the 4th ring, someone answered. Williams Development Group. This is Jessica speaking. How may I help you? The voice was professional, crisp, young. Elena's mouth went dry. Hi, I need to speak with Marcus Williams, please. May I ask what this is? Regarding? It's about his mother. There was a pause. I'm sorry, Mr. Williams's mother passed away in 2019. If this is regarding a charitable donation to the Dorothy's Light Fund, I can transfer you to no. Elena interrupted. No, you don't understand. His mother didn't die. She's alive. She's here with me right now. The silence on the other end was heavy. When Jessica spoke again, her voice was cold. Ma'am, do you know how many calls we get every month from people claiming to be related to Mr. Williams? People who want money, or I don't want money. Elena said desperately, I'm telling you the truth. Dorothy Williams is alive. She's been homeless for 6 years after a car accident. She's been trying to find her son, but she couldn't. I'm going to have to end this call now, Jessica said flatly. Mr. Williams is a very busy man, and I can't waste his time with. Wait. Elena's voice cracked. Please, just wait. Ask him one question. Just one? Jessica sighed. What question? Ask him. About his mother's favorite breakfast, the one she made every Sunday morning. There was a pause. His mother's breakfast? Yes. Elena's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Banana pancakes with maple syrup and black coffee. Marcus used to call it Sunday magic. Ask him if I'm lying. If I'm just some scammer, how would I know that? The silence stretched, things out. Elena could hear Dorothy breathing beside her, quick and shallow. How do you know that? Jessica's voice had changed. The coldness was gone, replaced by confusion. Because Dorothy told me last night because I bought her dinner at a problem cafe, and we talked for hours, and she told me about her son and the Sunday mornings they spent together. Elena's voice broke. Please, please just tell him his mother is alive. She needs him. Another long silence. Then hold, please. Music filled the line. Some generic instrumental version of a song Elena didn't recognize. Dorothy grabbed Elena's hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. What's happening? She's putting us through to him, Elena said. She's going to tell him. Oh, God. Dorothy's face had gone even paler. Oh, God. What if he doesn't believe it? What if he thinks it's a trick? He'll believe it, Elena said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. He has to. The hold music continued. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3. Dorothy's hand was shaking in Elena's. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe we should hang up. Maybe. No, Elena said firmly. We're not giving up now. 4 minutes. 5. Elena's own hand was starting to sweat despite the cold. What if Jessica hadn't actually put them through? What if she'd just put them on hold and forgotten about them? 6 minutes? Elena, Dorothy whispered. I'm scared. I know, Elena squeezed her hand. I'm scared too. But we're doing this together, okay? Whatever happens, we're in this together. Dorothy nodded, tears streaming down her face. 7 minutes. Then, suddenly, the music cut off, and a man's voice came on the line. This is Marcus Williams. His voice was deep controlled, but Elena could hear something underneath it. Tension, barely, and contained emotion. Who is this? Elena's breath caught. This was it. Mr. Williams, she said. My name is Elena Martinez. I'm calling from Riverside, Minnesota, and I'm sitting here with your mother. My mother died 6 years ago. Marcus's voice was tight, controlled, but Elena could hear everything underneath. Pain, hope, fear, all tangled together. I held a memorial service. I mourned her. What is this about? Elena took a deep breath. Mr. Williams, I know this. Sounds impossible, but your mother didn't die. She survived the accident. She's been alive this whole time. That's not possible. His voice went hard. The hospital told me they couldn't reach her. Her house was sold. There was no trace of her. She was gone. She was in a graft coma for 4 months, Elena said quickly. When she woke up, she had a head injury, memory loss. The hospital couldn't find you because you'd moved. They only had your old address. No. Marcus's breathing was getting faster. No. If she was alive, she would have found me. He would have. She tried. Elena's voice cracked. Mr. Williams, she tried everything, but she's 74 years old. She had no money, no phone, no way to search online. And she thought maybe you'd moved on, that you didn't want to be found. Silence. Then barely a whisper. I never stopped looking for her. Elena heard him start to cry. Deep, wrenching sobs that he was trying to hold back for 6 years. Marcus choked out. I've been looking. I hired investigators. I checked every hospital, every morgue. I couldn't accept that. She was gone without a body proof. But eventually, I had to. He couldn't finish. Dorothy was gripping Elena's arm so hard it hurt, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Williams, Elena said gently. She's here. She's been homeless, living on the streets, because she had nowhere else to go. Last night I found her in a cafe during the blizzard. She told me about you, about Sunday mornings and banana pancakes, about a little boy who wanted to build houses for people who needed them. Sunday magic, Marcus whispered. She called it Sunday magic. Yes. Another long silence, then his voice breaking. How do I know this is real? How do I know you're not just someone who read about my family online trying to ask her? To yourself? Elena said. She's right here. She held the phone out to Dorothy. The old woman stared at it like it was something sacred and terrifying all at once. Her hand shook so badly that Elena had to help her hold the phone to her ear. Hello. Dorothy's voice was barely audible. From the phone, a sharp intake. It's of breath. Mom. Dorothy's face crumpled. Marcus. Oh, Marcus. My baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. Marcus' voice exploded through the speaker. Oh my God. Mom, is it really you? Your voice. I can't. Mom, it's me. Sweetheart, it's me. Dorothy was sobbing, now, her whole body shaking. I wanted to leave you. I was trying to visit you. I was on my way. And then the accident, and I woke up and everything was gone. I tried to find you, baby. I tried so hard. I know. Marcus was crying too, his words tumbling over at each other. It's okay. None of that matters now. You're alive. You're alive. They both cried for a moment, unable to speak. Then Marcus said, Mom, do you remember? Do you remember the first time I tried to make pancakes for you? I was 9, and you burned them so badly. You set off the smoke alarm. Dorothy laughed through her tears, and you were so scared your father would be angry. But he just laughed and said, at least you tried. You remember. Marcus breathed. You really remember? I thank you for remember everything, sweetheart. Every one single day with you and your father. I never forgot. Not for 1 second. Mom. Marcus's voice was soft, now full of wonder. Do you remember the song you used to sing before bed? Dorothy closed her eyes. Her voice, thin and trembling, began to sing, You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. And then Marcus's voice joined in stronger, carrying across the miles. You make me happy when skies are gray. Together. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Their voices broke. Neither could continue. They were both crying too hard. Elena stood in the doorway of the abandoned bank, tears freezing on her cheeks, watching Dorothy clutch the phone like it was the only one thing keeping her alive. Mom, Marcus finally said, where are you? Tell me where you are right now. I'm in Riverside. I never left. I've been here the whole time. Stay there. His voice was fierce, commanding, stay exactly where you are. I'm getting on a plane. Right now, today, this minute. But, Marcus, you have work, your company, your family. Nothing is more important than you. Marcus cut her off. Nothing. Do you understand me? I lost you for 6 years. I'm not losing one more second. But I look terrible, son. I'm dirty. And I smell, and I don't care if you're covered in mud. You're my mother. I'm coming to get you. Dorothy started crying again. I love you so much. I never stopped loving you. I love you too, Mom, so much. His voice softened. Is Elena still there? The woman who acts called me. Dorothy held the phone out to Elena. Her hand was still shaking, but her eyes were bright, more alive than Elena had seen them. Mr. Williams, Miss Martinez. His voice was thick with emotion. I don't know who you are or why. You did this, but you gave me back my mother. I can never repay that. You don't need to repay anything. Can you stay with her until I get there? I'll cover all expenses. Hotel food, whatever you need. Just please don't let her out of your sight. Elena looked at Dorothy, who was still clutching the vase, a phone like a lifeline, tears of joy streaming down her weathered face. I'll stay with her, Elena said quietly. Not because you're paying me, because she's my friend. Thank you. Marcus's voice broke. Thank you. I'll text you my flight information. I'll be there by tonight. We'll be waiting. After he hung up, Dorothy and Elena sat in that cold doorway holding each other, both crying. He's coming. Dorothy kept saying, my boy is coming. He still loves me. Of course he loves you, Elena said. He never stopped. Around them, the city was waking up. Cars driving by, people heading to work. The world kept turning. But in that moment, in that frozen doorway, 2 women held onto each other and believed in miracles. Because sometimes when you refuse to give up hope, when you do the right thing, even when it costs you everything, when you see someone who needs help and you actually help them, sometimes miracles happen. And sometimes that's enough to save more than one life. It's enough to save them all. Come on, Elena said, helping Dorothy to her feet. You're coming home with me. Dorothy shook her head. I can't. I'm filthy. I smell. I can't go into your home like this. Yes, you can. Elena wrapped her arm around Dorothy's thin shoulders. Your son is flying across the country to see you. You're not spending another night in a doorway. When they reached the apartment, Sophia was eating cereal at the kitchen table, still in her pajamas. She looked up as the door opened and her eyes went wide. Elena, she stared at Dorothy, the torn coat, the dirty face, the smell. Then she looked at her sister. Elena met her eyes steadily. Sophia, this is Dorothy Williams. She's going to stay with us today. Sophia stood up slowly. Elena watched her sister take in the scene. The homeless woman, the obvious desperation, the silent plea in Elena's expression. Then Sophia smiled. Hi, Mrs. Williams. I'm Sophia. Welcome to our home. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. You don't have to. Yes, we do. Sophia said simply. She pulled out a chair at the table. Please sit down. Are you hungry? I can make you something. No. Dorothy was crying now. You girls don't need to do this. I can go to the shelter. I can. You're the mother of someone very special, Elena said firmly. You deserve to be treated like a queen. Now come on. Let's get you cleaned up. She led Dorothy to the tiny bathroom and turned on the water in the tub. Steam began to fill the small space. I'll find you some clothes, Elena said. Take your time. Use whatever you need. Dorothy stared at the bathtub like she'd never seen one before. Elena, I haven't had a real bath in 6 years. I've washed in gas station sinks. But this, her voice, broke. Thank you so much. While Dorothy bathed, Elena went to her closet and pulled out a cardboard box from the top shelf. Inside were Rosa's clothes, the things Elena couldn't bear to give away. A soft blue cardigan, a pair of comfortable pants, a floral blouse. She laid them out on her bed, just as Sophia appeared in the doorway. Chica, Sophia said quietly. Those are Abua's clothes. I know. Are you sure? Elena looked at her sister. Abua would want them to go to someone who needed them. Dorothy needs them. Sophia hugged her. You're amazing. You know that. I'm just doing what's right. No. Sophia pulled back and looked at her. Seriously. Most people know what's right. You actually do it. That's different. While Dorothy bathed, Sophia lit a vanilla candle and set out clean towels. She found Rosa's old radio and tuned it to a station playing soft, classical music. An hour later, Dorothy emerged from the bathroom. She looked transformed. Her white hair was clean and combed. Her face was pink and scrubbed. Rosa's blue cardigan fit her perfectly, and the pants, though a little loose, were held up with a belt Sophia had found. Mrs. Williams, Sophia breathed. You look beautiful. Dorothy walked to the mirror in the hallway and stared at her reflection. She touched her face gently, as if making sure it was real. I don't even recognize myself, she whispered. I look like a person again. You were always a person, Elena said. Now you just look like yourself. Dorothy turned away from the mirror, tears streaming down her. Clean cheeks. Will Marcus recognize me? It's been so long, and I've changed so much. He'll recognize you, Elena. Promised. A mother's face is something you never forget. For dinner, Elena made D's pole, the rich pork soup that Rosa used to make on special occasions. She made fresh tortillas by hand, slapping the dough between her palms the way her grandmother had taught her. Sophia helped prepare flan for dessert. They sat together at the small kitchen table. The three of them crowded around the worn surface. Dorothy ate slowly, savoring every bite. This is delicious, she said. You're a wonderful cook, Elena. My grandmother taught me. She said, food is love made visible. Sophia talked about school, her classes, her friends, her dreams of college. Dorothy listened like she was hearing the most fascinating story in the world, asking questions, making Sophia laugh. You're so smart, Dorothy said. You should be in college. Why aren't you going? Sophia's smile faded. I didn't get the scholarship I applied for, and we can't afford it otherwise. Sophia's brilliant, Elena added. Straight A's. She wants to be a social worker to help people like Mrs. Williams, Sophia said softly. Dorothy reached across the table and took Sophia's hand. Don't give up on your dreams, honey. I gave up hope for 6 years, I thought my life was over, but Elena showed me something. She looked at Elena. She showed me that sometimes when you think everything is lost, all it takes is one person who believes in you, one person who refuses to walk away. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Elena's always been that person for me. Then, you're lucky, Dorothy said, and I'm sure you'll get to college somehow. Because girls like you, smart, kind, determined, you don't get stopped by obstacles. You find a way around them. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Dorothy sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket, and she told stories about her years as a teacher, about the kid who couldn't read in September but was devouring chapter books by June, about the girl from a broken home who went on to become a doctor, about Marcus as a little boy, building elaborate castles out of cardboard boxes. He used to say they were for kids who didn't have houses, Dorothy said, smiling at the memory. Even at 5 years old, he wanted to help people. That's why he does affordable housing now, Sophia said. He's still building houses for people who need them. Dorothy nodded. That's my boy. He has his father's brain and my heart. Sophia looked at Elena. Chica, do you realize what you did? You reunited a family. You changed someone's entire life. Elena felt her throat tighten. I just bought coffee. No, Dorothy said firmly. You saw someone who needed help, and you helped. Most people walk by. You didn't. That's everything. At 11, Elena's phone buzzed with a text message. Miss Martinez, this is Marcus Williams. I'm on the plane now. Should arrive Minneapolis around 6 a.m. I'll drive straight to Riverside. Thank you for staying with my mother. A message came through immediately after. I've transferred $500 to your account payment for caring for my mother. Please don't refuse it. You've given me something priceless. Let me help you in return. Elena's hands shook as she opened her banking app. There it was. Deposit $500.00005.000. She could pay Mr. Davidson, keep the shop, register Sophia for college, buy fabric, pay the electric bill, buy food. She sat down on her bed and cried. Not just from relief, though. There was that, but from the overwhelming realization that sometimes doing the right thing actually worked out. Sometimes the universe noticed. Sometimes kindness didn't just cost you everything. Sometimes it saved you, too. She didn't sleep much that night. At 5:00 the morning, she got up and called Tyler. He answered on the third ring, his voice groggy. Hello, Tyler. It's Elena Martinez from the other night. At the cafe. Oh. His voice changed and became alert. Hi, is everything okay? Yes, actually everything's perfect. But I need a favor. A big one. What do you need? I need to use Frostbite Cafe tomorrow morning, 7, for about an hour for a family reunion. There was a pause. A reunion. Dorothy's son is flying in from California. He thought she died 6 years ago. I found him. He's coming to see her. And I want it to be special. Where it all started, Tyler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick. You don't, I need to pay for it. This is on me. It's the least I can do after how I treated her. Tyler, please, he interrupted. Let me do this. Let me be part of something good instead of something cruel. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. I'll call Sharon. We'll make it perfect. By 6:30 that morning, Elena, Sophia, and Dorothy stood outside Frostbite Cafe. The lights were on inside. Through the window, they could see people moving around. Tyler, Sharon, and others. Tyler opened the door. Come see. They walked inside. The cafe had been transformed. Fresh flowers sat on every table. Roses, lily, carnations. White candles flickered in. Glass holders. A banner hung across the back wall. Welcome home, Dorothy. Sharon stood by the counter, her eyes red. I made banana pancakes, she said. Fresh. And I have real maple syrup. Mrs. Chen was there holding a hand-knitted scarf. For you, Mrs. Williams, to keep you warm. Mr. Thompson from the construction site had brought a framed photo, a Picture of Frostbite Cafe at night, snow-falling lights glowing. For the place where miracles happen, he said. Dorothy looked around at all these people, strangers who'd become something more, and she couldn't speak. She just stood there crying while they gathered around her. These people who'd heard her story and wanted to be part of her happy ending. People are good, Sophia whispered to Elena. When you give them a chance, people are so good. Elena squeezed her sister's hand. Outside, the sun was rising. A new day, and somewhere in the sky, a plane was descending, carrying a son home to his mother at another one. 6:45. Frostbite Cafe. Looked like something out of a dream. Yellow tulips, Dorothy's favorite flower, as Sharon had learned from a quick phone call to Elena, sat in simple glass vases on every table. The corner table where Dorothy had sat with her glass of free water just 2 nights ago had a small slash, handwritten sign reserved for family reunion. The smell of banana pancakes filled the air. Sharon stood at the stove, carefully flipping each one, making sure they were perfect. Outside, a small crowd had gathered. Word had spread through the neighborhood. Mrs. Chen was there, clutching her hand-knitted scarf. Mr. Thompson stood beside her, holding his framed photograph. Other regulars from the cafe, shopkeepers from Maine, street people who'd heard the story and he wanted to witness the miracle. They stood in the cold, their breath making clouds in the morning air, waiting. Inside, Elena held Dorothy's hand. The old woman was trembling so hard her teeth chattered. What if he's disappointed? Dorothy whispered. What if he sees me and realizes I'm not the mother he remembers? That's impossible. Elena squeezed her hand. You're exactly the mother he remembers. The mother who loved him. The mother who taught him to be kind. That hasn't changed. Sophia took Dorothy's other hand. We're all here with you, Mrs. Williams. You're not alone. Dorothy looked at these 2 girls who'd become like family in just one day. She took a shaky breath and nodded. They walked into the cafe together. Dorothy sat at the corner table, her hands rested on the surface, shaking. Elena and Sophia sat on either side of her like bookends. Tyler stood behind the counter watching the street. His eyes were red. He's almost here, he said quietly. Taxi just turned onto Main. Dorothy's hand flew to her chest. Oh God, I can't breathe. Yes, you can. Elena said firmly. Breathe with me. In and out. In and out. Dorothy breathed. In and out. In and out. Then Tyler said, He's here. A taxi pulled up in front of the cafe. The door opened and Marcus Williams stepped out. He was tall, over 6 feet, wearing a black coat and dress, pants like he'd come straight from the Dallas airport. His hair was dark with streaks of gray at the temples. His face was lean, tired, his eyes red from crying, or not sleeping, or both. He looked at the cafe, at the flowers in the window, at the banner, at the people standing outside in the cold, and then he looked through the glass and saw his mother. He froze for 10 seconds. He didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared. Dorothy stood up slowly, her hands gripping the table for support. Mother and son looked at each other through the window. 6 years of grief and loss and desperate, searching in a single moment. Then Marcus moved. He walked to the door and pushed it open. The bell chimed the same, a bell that had rung when Tyler asked Dorothy to leave 2 nights ago. But this time, everything was different. Marcus stood in the doorway. Dorothy stood by the table. The cafe was silent, except for the sound of their breathing. Mom. Marcus's voice cracked. Is it really you? Dorothy's face crumpled. Marcus, my baby, my boy. Marcus crossed at the cafe in 3 long strides and Miller wrapped his arms around his mother. Dorothy was tiny against him. She had to stand on her toes, reaching up to hold him. He bent down, pulling her close, and they held each other like they were afraid to let go. And then they both started crying, deep, wrenching sobs that shook both their bodies. Marcus buried his face in his mother's hair. Dorothy clutched his coat like she'd never let go again. I'm sorry, Marcus choked out. I'm so sorry, Mom. I looked everywhere. I looked for years. I should have found you sooner. I should have. No. Dorothy was sobbing too hard to dead Speak clearly. This is my fault. I let you think I was dead. I let you mourn me. 6 years. Marcus. 6 years. You suffered because I couldn't find you. It doesn't matter. Marcus pulled back just enough to look at her face, his hands cupping her cheeks. None of that matters. Now, you're here. You're alive. That's all that matters. He looked at her, really looked at her at the lines that hadn't been there before, the white hair that had been only gray, the thinness of her frame. You're beautiful, he whispered. You're so beautiful, Mom. Dorothy laughed through her tears. I'm old and worn out. You're my mother. You're perfect. Sharon appeared beside them carrying a plate of banana pancakes and a cup of black coffee. She sat them down on the table silently, tears streaming down her own face, then backed away. Marcus stared at the plate, his breath hitched. Sunday magic, he whispered. Dorothy smiled. You remember. Mom, I remember everything. Marcus helped her sit down, then sat beside her, still holding her hand like he was afraid she'd disappear. I remember your voice singing me to sleep. I remember the way you smelled like vanilla and flowers. I remember how you'd hug me every morning before school and tell me to be kind today. He picked up a fork with his free hand and cut off a piece of pancake. He took a bite and closed his eyes. It tastes just like yours, he said. Exactly like yours. They ate together, neither letting go of the other's hand. Dorothy fed herself with her left hand, awkward, but refusing to let go of her son. Marcus did the same. Around them, the cafe was completely silent. Tyler stood behind the counter, tears running down his face. Chiron had her apron pressed to her eyes. Sophia was crying openly, and Elena's cheeks were wet. After a few minutes, Marcus looked up and scanned the cafe. His eyes landed on Elena. You're Elena Martinez. Elena nodded. Marcus stood up and walked over to her, and then, to everyone's shock, he dropped to his knees in front of her. Mr. Williams. Elena started, but he grabbed her hands. You saved my mother's life, he said, his voice thick. You gave me back the person I love most in the world. You gave me a second chance I never thought I'd have. I just bought coffee, Elena said, crying. You did so much more than that. Marcus looked up at her. This powerful CEO kneeling on a cafe floor. You saw someone who needed help? You helped. When everyone else walked by, you stopped. You cared. You gave everything you had. Dorothy spoke up from the table. Marcus, she used her last $20. She was about to lose her home. Her sister can't go to college, but she chose to help me anyway. Marcus, and looked shocked. You were about to lose your home. Elena tried to pull her hands away, embarrassed. That's not important. It's the most important thing in the world. Marcus stood up still, holding her hands. Do you know what true kindness is? It's not giving when you have plenty. It's giving when you have nothing left to give. That's what you did. My grandmother taught me that kindness costs nothing, Elena whispered. Your grandmother was wrong. Marcus smiled through his tears. Kindness cost you everything, and I'm going to make sure you get it all back and more. Outside the cafe, the crowd that had gathered began to clap slowly at first, then louder. The sound filled the street. Applause for a miracle for love that survived 6 years of separation, for a young woman who changed everything with 2 cups of coffee. Mrs. Chen was crying. This is why we have to believe in kindness, she said to the people around her. This is why we can't give up on each other. Mr. Thompson nodded. This is why Riverside is home, because people like Ella Yanena live here, because miracles still happen. Inside, Tyler walked over to Dorothy and Marcus. His face was red and blotchy from crying. Mrs. Williams, he said quietly, I'm the one who asked you to leave 2 nights ago. I'm so sorry. I thank it for watching. It was cruel and heartless. And Dorothy reached out and took his hand. You were doing your job, son, and look what came from it. If you hadn't asked me to leave, Elena wouldn't have seen me. She wouldn't have helped. Sometimes God works in mysterious ways. Tyler broke down completely. Sharon came over and put her arm around him. We're so glad you came home, Sharon said to Dorothy. We're so glad we got to be part of this story. Marcus looked around at all these people, strangers who'd become part of his mother's miracle. Thank you, he said, all of you. Thank you for caring about my mother, for helping to bring her back to me. Thank Elena. Mrs. Chen called from outside the raid window. She's the one who started it all. Marcus turned back to Elena. I know I sent you money, but that's just the beginning. Please, let me help you. Let me repay what you've given me. Elena shook her head. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. Marcus's voice was firm. And I'm not going anywhere until you let me help. Dorothy stood up and walked over to them. She took Elena's hand and Marcus's hand and joined them together. Listen to my son, she said softly. He's stubborn, like me. He won't give up. And honestly, you deserve every good thing that's like coming to you. You earned it. Elena looked at these two people, this mother and son who'd found each other again because she'd refused to walk away. She looked at Sophia, who was beaming with pride, at Tyler and Sharon and all the people outside, all of them crying and smiling and believing in miracles. And she thought about Rosa, who'd taught her that every stitch was an act of hope. Maybe Rosa had been right all along. Maybe hope was enough. Maybe kindness really did change everything. Okay, Elena whispered. Okay. Marcus stayed in Riverside for a week. He booked the best suite at the Riverside Grand Hotel and took Dorothy to see doctors, a general practitioner, a cardiologist, a specialist for her arthritis. After years of sleeping on the streets, he needed to know she was okay. The doctor's report was better than anyone expected. Mrs. Williams is malnourished, and her joints show signs of arthritis, but there's nothing seriously wrong. With proper care, regular meals, and her medication, she could live another 20 years. Marcus cried when he heard that. 20 more years with his mother. 20 years. He'd thought were lost forever. Every day he walked with Dorothy through the snow-covered streets of Riverside. She showed him her old elementary school, now converted into apartments. The house where she and George had raised him now, painted a different color with different paint, people living inside. The church where she sometimes got meals. I don't regret it, Dorothy said one afternoon as they walked past Frostbite Cafe. These 6 years, if I hadn't lost everything, I never would have met Elena, and she reminded me what it means to be human. Marcus squeezed her hand. She reminded me too. On his 5th night in Munded, Riverside, Marcus invited Elena and Sophia to dinner at the hotel, the restaurant. Sophia stared wide-eyed at the white tablecloths, the crystal glasses, the menu with no prices. Elena felt completely out of place in her nicest dress, one of Rose's old ones, faded but clean. Thank you for coming, Marcus said as they sat down. Miss Martinez, I don't know how to thank you for what you've done. You already have, Elena said quietly. You showed me that miracles are real. Marcus shook his head. No, you don't understand. You didn't just give me back my mother. You gave me back my faith in humanity. For 6 years, I've been angry at the universe, at myself, at everyone who didn't help her. But you helped when you had every reason not to. You helped. That changes everything. He pulled out a folder and set it on the table. I've been looking into your situation, your shop, your grandmother's legacy, the eviction notice. Elena stiffened. Mr. Williams, I appreciate the money you sent, but I don't need charity. Good. Marcus smiled. Because I'm not offering charity, I'm offering an opportunity. He opened the folder. Inside were architectural drawings and business plans. Williams Development is launching a new project here in Riverside Community Hub. It's a space for small businesses, local entrepreneurs, people who need a chance, but can't afford commercial rent. He pointed to one of the drawings. I want Abua's Threads to be the anchor tenant. 5 years rent-free after that reduced rent, based on income. Elena stared at the papers. I don't understand. But that's not all. Marcus's eyes were bright now, excited. I want you to expand. Create a Menacave training program. Teach sewing and alterations to people who are homeless, unemployed, struggling. Give them skills they can use to support themselves. Williams Development will fund the entire program. Equipment supplies. Stipends for students. You want me to too? Open a school? Elena could barely breathe. I want you to start a movement, Marcus said. The way your grandmother did with you, the way you did with my mother. I want you to take broken people and help them put themselves back together, one stitch at a time. Dorothy reached across the table and took Elena's hand. Will you do it, dear, for people like me? For everyone who's been invisible? Elena looked at Sophia, who was crying, then at Dorothy, whose eyes were full of hope, then at Marcus, who believed in her more than she believed in herself. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll do it. Marcus turned to Sophia. And you? I spoke with the University of Minnesota. They've agreed to review your application again with a letter of days recommendation for me. Sophia's eyes went wide. But I didn't have the GPA. You have something more important than a GPA. Marcus smiled. You have character. You have a sister who would sacrifice everything for you. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is the Dorothy Williams Memorial Scholarship, full tuition room, and board books, everything you need for 4 years. Sophia's hands shook as she took the envelope. She looked at Elena, then burst into tears and threw her arms around Marcus. Thank you. Thank you so much. I won't let you down, I promise. I'll work hard and make everyone proud. And I know you will, Marcus said, gently. Now, go change the world. The next day, Marcus met 3 young boys who hung around Main Street. Jamal, Deshaun, and Terrence. They were between 8 and 10 years old, often asking for change, sometimes getting in trouble. Elena had given them food, before taught them basic stitching when they showed interest. You boys want to learn a trade? Marcus asked them. Terrence, the oldest and boldest, eyed him suspiciously. You going to pay us to learn? No. Marcus crouched down to their level. I'm going to give you an opportunity. What you do with it is up to you. But if you work hard, if you show up, if you try, you'll have skills that no one can take away from you. All 3 enrolled in Elena's program. 3 months later, Abuela's Threads Community Center held its grand opening. The new space was beautiful. 3,000 square ft with 15 sewing machines, a classroom area, a showroom for finished work. The sign above the door read, Abuela's Threads Community Center, where every stitch builds hope. Underneath, in smaller letters, founded by Elena Martinez, inspired by Rosa and Dorothy. 50 people enrolled in the first class. 30 of them were homeless or recently unemployed. Frostbite Cafe changed too. Sharon created a pay-it-forward program where customers could buy coffee or food in advance for people who couldn't afford it. The corner table where Dorothy had sat was now marked with a small plaque, the kindness table, reserved for those who need warmth. Tyler was promoted to assistant manager. He became an advocate for the homeless, working with local shelters to create safe spaces and opportunities. Dorothy moved to California to live near Marcus, but she flew back to Riverside every month to volunteer at the center, teaching students about resilience and hope. It doesn't matter where you came from, she told them. It matters where you're going. 6 months after the center opened, they held their first graduation ceremony. 20 students completed the program. Mrs. Chen was there. She'd learned upholstery repair. 2 formerly homeless men and 1 woman received certificates. And the 3 boys, Jamal, Deshaun, and Terrence, finished the Freight Youth Program. Terrence gave a speech, his voice stronger, now more confident. Miss Elena taught us how to sew, but really, she taught us how to believe in ourselves. She showed us we matter. Within a month, 15 of the 20 graduates found employment. Marcus expanded Dorothy's Light Foundation nationwide, searching for other Elena's people doing quiet, powerful work in their communities. The foundation's slogan, one act of kindness can light 1,000 lives. 1 year later, on Christmas Eve, Frostbite Cafe hosted its first annual kindness celebration. Elena stood in the crowley, warm cafe surrounded by everyone who'd become family. Marcus sat with Dorothy, their heads close together talking. Sophia was home from college, animated and happy, telling Tyler about her social work classes. The 3 boys ran around laughing, completely different from the scared kids they'd been a year ago. Dorothy stood up and raised her coffee cup. I want to say something. The room quieted. 1 year ago, I was ready to die. I had given up, but a young woman I'd never met saw me, really saw me, and she refused to walk away. Dorothy's voice shook. She gave me back my life. She gave me back my son. She showed me that even when everything seems lost, kindness still matters. Elena wiped her eyes. And it wasn't just me, Dorothy continued. Look around this room. 20 people have jobs because of a limit. Her 3 boys have hope. My son has his mother back. An entire community remembers what it means to care, all because one person refused to be cruel. Everyone applauded. Elena shook her head, crying. It wasn't me. It was my grandmother. She taught me that every stitch is an act of hope. I just tried to remember that. Then Rosa's legacy lives on, Dorothy said, through you, through all of us. As the party continued, Elena stood by the window, looking out at the snow-covered street. She saw an old man shuffling past, his coat too thin, his shoulders hunched against the cold. Sophia appeared beside her. Do you see him? Elena smiled. She grabbed her coat. Wait here. She went to the counter, ordered 2 large coffees and 2 sandwiches, and walked outside into the cold. Excuse me, sir, she called. The old man turned, surprised, wary. Elena held up the coffee. Would you mind if I sat with you for a bit? I really hate drinking coffee alone. The man stared at her, his eyes filled with tears. You do that for me? Of course, Elena smiled. Come on, let's get you warm. Inside, Frostbite Cafe. Through the frosted windows, the warm light glowed. Laughter and conversation filled the air. Sophia, I watched her sister walk away with a stranger who needed help, and she smiled. The cycle continued. The kindness spread. The hope multiplied. And somewhere, Rosa was smiling too. Because that's what love does. It doesn't just save one person. It ripples outward, touching everyone it meets, creating waves of change that never really end. All it takes is one person willing to stop, to see, to care. All it takes is 2 cups of coffee and a heart brave enough to give them away. Kindness, it costs nothing, but means everything. Pass it on. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.